Video number 5 for the drawing class. We're going to do a little review and then we're going to look at something called spatial recognition today. First of all, let's think back to our elements of contour shape, which are here we go. We have our 5 different families. First of all, we have the circle family, which can be any shape, a line that connects itself and there's no empty spaces. Then we have the dot family, which can be a circle filled in. We have the straight line family, the angle family, the curved line family. These elements of contour shape make up the regular shapes that we would normally call 2D. In order to get a 3D picture, a 3D artistic reference for our photographic reference, then we use our pencil, starting with our lightest pencil, 4H, then 2H, HB, 2B, and 4B. Now we've practiced doing our tapered stroke. We've learned about outlines. We've learned about value. These different pencils represent different values that you see in a black and white photo. Now, what we're going to talk about today is spatial recognition. We need to be able to know how big something is, how small something is, according to our reference and how we place it on our paper. This is going to vary with maturity in the children. So you want to realize that with maturity, this concept will get clearer and better. But right now, you can help them with a few things, like instructions, being able to find the edge of the paper or the corner of the paper. Using these elements of contour shape, we're going to do that today. I'm going to take my dark marker, let's take black today, and I'm going to take my fine tip instead of the wide tip, and I'm going to make different elements on this paper, and I'd like you to instruct the children to do the same. Yours don't have to be like mine, but I would encourage you to use each element. For instance, number 1, place a dot in the middle of the paper. And remind them that a dot is a circle filled in. Now let's place a circle on the edge of the paper. This could mean any edge. It could be this edge, but it should touch the edge. It could mean this edge, any place on close to the edge and touch the edge. Also here, or here. Let's turn the paper over. But you want them to be able to recognize where to place their shapes, or elements of the shape. Now, we've got the dot family, we have the circle family. Let's put some dots inside those circles. Now, the next line that we could go to would be the straight line family. Let's take one straight line and go from one corner of the page to the opposite corner. Of course, it could end up here or here, but you just want them to know the concept of what the corner of the paper is and how to draw their line, big or small. Now, how about a curved line? We could go from one edge to a corner. Or we could go from an edge to an edge with a curved line. And it doesn't have to be huge. We also could do curved lines that are squiggly, I would say, more so. Let's go from edge to an edge. And then let's attach an angled line through the curved line, or an angle line through this curved line, or two curved lines, or two curved lines and a straight line. Now, once you get them used to being able to identify those lines, play the game again, or look around and have them identify the different elements of contour shape. But also, let me help you with transferring that reference to your picture. Of course, we talked about the buck, we've looked at different values, and one way to transfer the reference of the buck to your computer paper and get just the outline of the buck is to, let me move this over a little bit so you can see both. Okay. One way to do this, if it's too difficult for the child to be able to understand the spatial value, if you want to place the photographic reference underneath the computer paper and then place it on a window, they would be able to trace just the outline and then go from there. Now, hopefully that's correct in setting that up. We made the outline with a 4H pencil, and if you're having need help in doing that, my suggestion would be for spatial recognition to, instead of using a ruler, you can use a ruler, but I would prefer you use fingers. You would place your fingers here and understand that the top of the antler is that far from the edge of the paper. And of course, you'd have to do it this way too, which is about 4 fingers and 4 fingers. Now you could make a point at each tip of the antler. You could also guess or judge roughly what the width here is with the nose and mark that. Mark the width from the chest or the back of the buck and just mark it lightly with your pencil. Then you can go back and follow those dots as a guideline when you're drawing the outline. That will help the child understand how big or small to put the reference, and that's why I had you do it on an 8x10. Now, I notice you're not seeing me the whole time, which is fine, but we're going to go to the next step. After we do our outline, what I would like you to do is take your lightest pencil, which is the 4H pencil, and start filling in where you see value in your reference. I'm going to do it with the buck, but then after I am finished, I would like you to do it with your reference. Start identifying those darkest spots, because this is a layered effect. We're going to start with the lightest pencil, but then for darker areas, we're going to go over it with another darker pencil and a darker pencil after that until we finally finish with our 4B pencil, which is the darkest. And of course, by the time we get there, you're going to have 5 different values. The lightest value will be here in the horns, in the markings on his skin. And the darkest value will probably be in his eyes and in his nose, but that will mean that you're going to use 5 different pencils before you get to that darkest value. You're going to go from light to dark. You're going to start with filling color with this tapered stroke. Build upon that, layer upon it until you're finished and you get the effect that you want. So, Even though these look white, there is some that are standing out that does not have any value, but some of this has very light value. So I'm going to extend with my lightest pencil. Make sure this is 4H. Yep, good thing I checked, because I had them all sitting here and I grabbed the wrong pencil. So let's check this one. 2B, nope. Okay, here's the 4H. Now, I'm going to fill in very lightly with my tapered stroke. Now you can hold it in the crook of your hand and still have the control you want. And remember, you should be using a piece of computer paper so as not to smear as you go. This is very light, but by the time you get the darkest colors in here, it's not going to look dark at all. It's going to keep your light color. I see value in here. I'm going to fill that in. Now we're just using the 4H pencil now. Don't succumb to the temptation to use more than that at this point. Just use your lightest pencil to fill in any value that you see. I see some shadow actually on this horn, and I want to fill that in a little darker. And then these horns in the background, they're much darker. The light source is not real evident in this reference, but we take it that it's from the left. And so these horns here are shadowing the horns in the background. We want to continue to fill that in. Can you see that reference still? Good. This is dark. And remember, those darkest spots are going to be gone over several times. I'm just filling in basic value here, trying to stay away from line, trying to keep the tapered stroke to where I see value and not line. Now, it's interesting, these horns do have some line in them, but it's not going to be just a single line. It's going to be several lines together to make it look real. Okay. Now, I'm filling in these horns. This right here is very dark. We're going to come back with a darker pencil, and I notice the shadow on this horn. It's very, very dark. We're going to fill that in. Come around. It kind of connects here with your shadow. Use your tapered stroke. Try not to press too hard. It's kind of a tendency to press hard. But remember, we're going to layer this. We're going to put a lot more value on here. There's no need to press hard, because then you're going to injure your paper, actually, and then you won't have as much control of your final product, because you've damaged your paper with pressing too hard. Okay. Now, I see a very dark spot here. I want to make sure I kind of outline that and then fill it in without seeing lines. See, one line you would see a line, but as you build upon that line, you want to use your patch concept and lighten up as you go into a different part of the picture, so that you don't see line, but you just see darker value. Of course, there's a ear. Inside of the ear is light. Outside of the ear is dark. So we're going to fill that in. I see an outline of this ear being very dark. Inside, it's dark here. I see light on the outside. This is what I'm copying now, or watching. Now, there we go. Then we have some darkness here along his face that's separate from his neck. So we kind of want to accentuate that, fill in those dark values. Now, of course, we see value here. We're probably not going to go over it twice. We'll just leave it with one pencil, one area of tapered stroke there, and we probably won't go over it again if it's real light. We'll just leave it light. Now, around these eyes, I see darkness. See it above, and I see it here, kind of going into that horn. Then down his nose, he has kind of a dark stripe that separates with a little bit of lightness. So we fill in the spots that we know are going to be darker. Leave the parts that are lighter, emptier. We're not going to go back over that again, but we'll leave it pretty light. We'll go back over things that are darker with the other pencils. But right now, remember, this is just your light pencil. Just your light pencil. Now, let's do a little bit up here. This is definitely a fast example. Normally, I would have you take 30 to 45 minutes using this. It's very easy to rush when drawing, and you're a lot better off if you take your time, enjoy your time drawing, and not rush through it. Remember to relax, to breathe steady. See that nose? There's a little stripe there. Breathe steady. Make sure your elbows are relaxed, your shoulders are relaxed. There's a little light spot too that goes around his black nose there, so I'm going to leave it lighter than the other. Most of drawing is just seeing it for what it is, and seeing all the detail that you never saw before. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for detail that will make it come out. Now around this mouth here, instead of, I don't want to see a line for his mouth, I want to see value. So I'm building upon that line and bringing it outward like a patch towards his nose, and I'm also going to, towards his, on the opposite side of his mouth, I'm going to build upon that. I'm going to bring it out like a patch so that I don't see that line. Now, whenever you run into a problem with too dark of a line, use your eraser. Now, I'm not sure why my gum eraser is not here, my kneaded eraser, but I'm going to use a white one to lighten it up some. To lighten that line up so that it doesn't look like a line, but it looks like value. Okay. Now his mouth is kind of open there, but it does have some value to it, so I'm going to very lightly put in some value. Just like this patch underneath his chin and his chest, it's going to be lighter. We're not going to go over it many times, but it still has value, so it's still needful for you to put in value. Work your patch out, sometimes inside, sometimes outside of the patch. You want to work your patch out. Now, let me demonstrate that. See, if you take this line, rather than see a line, you see fur. So you want to take your strokes past this line, so you don't see a line. build a patch. So that instead of seeing a line, you see value. And then it gradually disappears into the other part of his face. Make it just gradually disappear so you see value instead of line. Okay, let's do the same with this chest. Go over that. Go outward from the contour shape. Build upon that. Go outward and lighten up to where it's very, make it disappear so that you don't see a line, but that you see value. When you're done with the 4H and you see lines that need to be getting rid of, you either have to add a darker pencil to change it, or you have to use your eraser to lighten it up. Now, right underneath here, I see extra dark, so I'm going to add another pencil to that, I'm sure, later. But right now, we're working on our 4H. Remember, this is just your lightest pencil. Just your lightest pencil. We're trying to fill in as much value as possible. Now, let's go to this. We have a light spot on his neck. In it, as you get here, we have darkness. We have these dark patches here that we have to be aware of, and probably some sunshine that's shining right there. So you could differentiate those with shape before you start working with your patches. But you have to be able to define where you're going to stop, where you're going to start, what's going to be dark, what's going to be light. You always be thinking about that as you go. These patches are darker than the regular fur, so I'm going to fill those in first. And they're going up and down, probably because of the fur line. Now, you're not going to see a lot of those lines, but you will see the value. There. Let's go this way so you can see. I'm using the tapered stroke, not too hard. You don't want to press too hard here. You just want value, not lines. And it's easy to get a hard spot. If you do, take your eraser and lighten it up. Okay, those are the dark spots here. Now we're going to stretch some of this very lightly because it's lighter actually than the head. And then you're going to gradually go down into the other patches that you've done. It goes into here. It's not as light. Now always step back and look to see what you could do better. I see some lines going this way, and I'd like my lines to go more this way. But we can differentiate that later with the darker pencils too. Right now, let's just fill in value as best we can. And here, I'm going to make it dark at the end so that we can have a definite end to this buck. I'm going different ways with the tapered stroke in order to see value. Okay, this could be called cross-hatching if you make it more definite, but I would like to think of it as using the tapered stroke effectively. Now from this point on, we do have some darker areas to do. I'm going to go ahead and fill in that eye the best I can, leaving the light spot empty. There's a little light spot here. I'm going to fill it in just with value. We're going to come back with another pencil later. There's a little, almost like a teardrop in his eye here that we want to point out. darker spots. I see this more dark. So we want to increase that value before we move to another pencil, which we are going to do soon. We'll probably have to do that on another video. I just want to take you step by step. In my class, we start with an outline the first day, and we don't do 4H pencil till the following. And then we wait another week before we add our 2H pencil, our HB, 2B, and 4B. You want to take your time and do this correctly, or you're going to be very disappointed in the outcome. This is a little bit darker too, so you fill that in. I see some more hair underneath his ear here. There we go. And that will be all for spatial recognition and the first step in applying your 4H pencil. Thank you.